And welcome everyone to Black Twitch League. This is week 5, day 3 of games here, where we've got our first matchup of the day, Trebuchet versus Predictive Gaming Nemesis. My name's RareAdam. I am the only caster here for now, so we will try and see if we can get any friends to join us later on, but we're already getting into draft here as Trebuchet and Predictive Gaming, two teams that started the season off a little bit slower. Trebuchet has been able to sort of pick up a little bit of the slack recently, but Predictive Gaming still looking to sort of get their feet underneath them, and I think this series might be one where they can try and push forward their advantages, whereas Trebuchet want to keep that momentum from last week and continue to push forward their own sort of narrative in a way. Because looking at how these schedules have turned out, Trebuchet, they've had some really close series. They did give DPS a little bit of a scare in week 2, taking them to a third game before falling to Spectre Gaming the week after, but they were able to take down Team Ishtar in week 4, so week 5 matchup here looking pretty good for them. If they are able to pick up a win here, they are going to start to get themselves into that lower end of the playoff bracket and potentially make a push towards playoffs, whereas on the flip side, Predictive Gaming just looking to salvage their season just a little bit, but we've already got ourselves through the first phase of bans here. Victor, Renata Glask, and Vega are going to be banned away from Predictive Gaming. They want to keep Smurf 6541 off of their comfort champions. Whereas on the flip side, the Vladimir, the Hecarim, and the Volibear will be banned out. The two junglers that are banned out there, the Hecarim and the Volibear, two of those top 2 junglers at the moment. And knowing what Mute's champion pool is, not too surprising that they want to stray away from the meta as much as possible. On the flip side, though, in terms of picks, Wet Dreams will be able to pick themselves up a Jinx early on here. The answer will be the Lulu from Melon and Pafu on the Shen. So lots of protection already for what could be another hyper carry picked up in the bottom side. We've seen Cookies pull out the Kog'Maw before. The Zeri is another option that is quite strong right now. Aphelios as well in its own right has been quite strong. Granted, not a champion that Predictive Gaming have played too much of, but Blast is going to reply with the Mordekaiser to potentially cancel out that Shen ulting down to the bottom lane and having that impact. But yeah, overall, these two teams have, as we mentioned, they did have a little bit of a slow start to the season, but, you know, it isn't over until it is over. The Sona gets locked in for Cable on the bottom side. One of the main things to keep in mind is that Team Ishtar has sort of been the Kingslayers of these teams. They took down Barbara's Fan Club in a 2-1. They took down MG Element last night as well in a 2-1. But then they've lost to Trebuchet. They've lost to Spectre Gaming. They've lost to some of these other teams. So it's really hard to get a pulse on where Team Ishtar ranks up compared to everyone else here, because they've lost to WCU Rams. They've lost to Spectre, who are teams around their range, but they have beat Barbara's Fan Club. They've lost to Trebuchet, and they've beat MG Element. So it's sort of they've lost to everyone below them, beat everyone above them. Weird situation. So that's where it starts to get difficult to gauge where Trebuchet is, because that is one of their victories as well. Is that a team that their victory means a lot to Trebuchet? Potentially, as it could give them momentum. So we'll have to keep our eye on that, but Mute going to pick up that Kha'Zix as is expected for them. They like to play those assassin junglers. We'll be picking that up for the jungle. And the Rek'Sai going to be banned out. So more junglers going to be banned towards Close Your Eyes here. Of note, Trebuchet running a little bit of a different look here. Op Ivy playing mid lane once again. Cable and Close Your Eyes, I believe, are the two newcomers here for the side of Trebuchet. So a little bit of a different look. We'll see if that synergy is there to stick to it. Smurf is not going to be able to get their hands on the Zoe either. You can see how much respect they are giving over to their enemies, though. They're saying, Smurf, we want to take you off of your comfort champions. We're going to put you down the order as much as possible. And just mid lane bans galore here from the side of Trebuchet, whereas it's a couple of mid lane bans, but also a lot of jungle bans coming through from Predictive Gaming. That Kennen ban coming through may mean that the Mordekaiser, they're not 100% sure where that's going. Kennen normally seen as a top laner, but Op Ivy and Trebuchet, I believe, they have pulled out the Kennen mid lane. It's either them or Spectre Gaming who have pulled it out. So it is always an option for them to pull something different out, as the Kaisa is going to be banned out to potentially give that Jinx a little bit of a better matchup. We await to see what Predictive Gaming will pick for their hyper carry, though. I say hyper carry just based on the two champions that were picked up very early here, the Lulu and the Shen, looks like the Tristana is going to be the answer for Cookies. So a little bit of early game pressure, sort of has that mid game trough that we've talked about with a couple of these 80 carries where they're very strong levels 1 through 3. They sort of struggle level 4 into about 2 items or so, and then they're able to pick up where they left off. Champions like Kaisa, like Caitlyn, like Tristana really fit into that mold, so Predictive Gaming maybe looking for an early aggressive play with this Tristana-Lulu combo, which can output a boatload of damage, especially onto a rather squishy lane, such as Jinx Sona, and maybe get themselves off the ground from there. But on the flip side, Up Ivy will be playing the Vex in the mid lane here, taking the control mage. They know they're going to have to blind pick something. Might as well pick something that is relatively safe overall. And Vex, able to space out fights really well, able to hang back and just kind of park the bus at that. But yeah, we still await to see what that last pick will be. Close your eyes. Going to be playing something that effectively plays with their eyes closed or makes everyone else's eyes go a little bit worse with the Nocturne picked up there. Interesting option as you've got a decent amount of frontline already. You've got a decent amount of damage. Sort of Nocturne able to amplify that damage just a little bit more, looking for those assassinations onto the backline, really looking to punish the likes of this Tristana, of this potential Annie pickup here, or the Kha'Zix even. It's going to make the jungle very... It's going to make it very polarizing because you have to try and garner a lead when possible to push forward that advantage, and basically having 2 assassin junglers or 2 diver junglers means that any opportunities, any advantages that you can get in the early game will be able to pay off in spades here. But looks like they are ready to get into the endgame draft. Let me just make sure everything is lined up. Perks of being the only one here means that you get to do everything. The one-man show is a true feeling. Just 1 second here. As we get our draft overlay set up here. But yes, as we can see, the rosters for each of these sides, Trebuchet playing a blast up on the top side, Close Your Eyes in the jungle, Up Ivy in the mid lane, Wet Dreams in the bot lane, supported by Cable. And on your flip side for PG Nemesis on the red side, it will be Pafu in the top lane, Mute in the jungle, Smurf 6541 in the mid lane, Cookies down in the bot lane, and Melon as the support. But yeah, overall, looking at the drafts once again, there's a lot to like about what Trebuchet have picked up for themselves. They've really been able to play towards their comfort. Wet Dreams has done a great job playing these meta 80 carries in the past, and Jinx, Aphelios, Zeri, still relatively strong. There are some other champions that have risen in popularity since the B patch has come through, but you know, with 12.6 on the horizon and not a whole lot of changes coming to a lot of those 80 carries still, we should be moving into a more stable meta, and once we get into MSI season, specifically in about a month, as well as with playoffs on the horizon, we're going to see a lot of the same champions come up, and Jinx being that sort of S-tier pick that we've talked about multiple times on the cast is sort of going to be your catalyst to improve. I am curious to see how the side of Predictive Gaming Nemesis come through in Game 1, though, because with Trebuchet running a couple of subs here, we don't know how much time there has been for them to adapt and really play with this roster. Something that can be noted is that Predictive Gaming Nemesis have played with this roster for more than just this BTL season, having played against them, actually, in a couple of other leagues. I recognize this roster pretty quickly, and they are a strong roster when they're able to get their footing. And I think the main thing about the Black Twitch League that has been difficult for them has been their strength of schedule that they have gone up against. They've played against Barber's Fan Club, MG Element, they've played against DPS, and then Spectre Gaming. They've played against effectively the top 4 teams already, so this might be their sort of second half comeback. If they're able to pick up a victory here, they face Team Ishtar next week, and they face WC Rams in week 7. That could be where they're able to sort of make their march back into relevance here, in a sense. Granted, it has been a lot of 2-0s against them. They haven't really been able to find what works for them in a lot of ways, and you want to see a good performance come through from this team because you know that they've got the capability. We've had flashes of brilliance come through from them in the past, but it hasn't quite been put together quite yet. There still is just that lack of trigger discipline, I want to say, sometimes when they're playing from behind, or just knowing what to do when they have slight leads. So we're going to head to a break, actually, while we get through the spec delay. But when we are back, we will have game one between Trebuchet and Predictive Gaming Nemesis on the Rift. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Black Twitch League. And onto the Rift we go with game 1 here between Trebuchet and Predictive Gaming Nemesis. RareAdam here on the microphone with you today, as both of these teams seem to just be hanging out in their bases for now. Just loading in onto the Rift here, as really excited to see where these two teams go with this game. Curious to see how everything will work out, but overall, a very interesting setup for our games today. Doing this one-man trick doesn't always pay dividends, as everyone is stuck in base. Never actually seen this before. Just 1 second here. What is going on? That is something that we will find out here. I have no idea if the game just broke or not, because they're still in base. Okay, they are moving now. Oh my goodness, what is going on? Where are their health bars? They're just standing out there. Okay, we have figured it out. Things are not broken. I think I might have just broken the client. That might be it. But regardless, we are into game here, as we should be getting prepped for everything shortly. And curious to see how this game will play out. But overall, just standing out here in mid lane for the time being. Yes, we are looking at the mid laners not moving, but everyone else is moving. So I am hopeful that this is just them standing and setting up their battle lines, and we should be good to go. I've never seen that bug before, though. So chat, if you've ever seen that bug where no one moves, let me know, because that was definitely strange. But regardless, as I just need to remember to turn everything back on. Okay, like this. There we go. Trebuchet will be on your blue side for game 1, and it's going to be Predictive Gaming on the red side here. Thus far, to start us out here, doesn't look to be anything too crazy off the get-go here. Pretty standard starts. Both of these junglers are going to be starting on opposite sides of the map on their red buffs here. Nocturne generally going to be seen as one of those junglers who wants to full clear, take their time clearing everything out, and just going from there. Kha'Zix, though, sometimes we've seen some early ganks come through. Sometimes it has been elsewhere across the map, so curious to see where they will sort of stake their claim in this situation. Meanwhile, level 2 going to come through for the side of Cookies and Melon here. Going to get a decent chunk of damage actually down onto Wet Dreams, but everything will end up sort of fizzling out for the time being. That level 2 mark is going to be pretty important for the, in general, in bot lane, right? You want to try and push forward your advantages as much as possible, but obviously the 280 carries here, with their support specifically, unless they've got a huge amount of damage already poked out onto one member, or they're landing right on top of them, or they've got the exhaust coming down, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to make it stick. Meanwhile, topside Blast going to be able to get a little bit of damage onto Pafu there. Generally, all of these lanes are going to be a little bit slower to start out here. You're generally waiting for that level 4 or 5 mark on some of these champions. Even level 6 for these mid laners specifically. Of note, Op Ivy did opt to go for the teleport as opposed to the ignite that Smurf opted to go for. So a little bit more kill threat from the Annie here in that mid lane, as Pafu ends up taking even more damage here from Blasty up on that top side of the map. Wave getting pushed in. The Shen is actually up in farm though, so overall will be a little bit happier despite the limited health pool that they have. Junglers, though, going to start to converge onto this mid lane potentially. Mute is behind Op Ivy here. The flash stun going to come through. Op Ivy with a great 2-man fear. Going to have to flash away towards Close Your Eyes, but the flash from Mute coming forward. Is there enough damage? No! Op Ivy will be able to stay alive as the red buff expired off of the Kha'Zix in that mid lane gank. Now Smurf in a little bit of a hairy situation. Close Your Eyes still has that flash available if they need it. Smurf doesn't have that for themselves, though, as this will be the Nocturne picking up 2 kills in that mid lane. Disaster strikes for the side of Predictive Gaming Nemesis. Meanwhile, bot side now, Cable will get that explosive charge popped on top of them. Wet Dreams, though, going to be moving forward, gets exhausted, and Ellen is going to have to try and get out of here somehow. Cookie's going to get zapped up and slowed down as Lulu will be able to stay alive with a sliver of health, but 3 kills across the map for the side of Predictive. Trebuchet here will end up being the difference maker. Of note, Close Your Eyes is opting to go for the Iron Spike Whip, so no Duskblade or first item Axiom Arc for Power Outage Nocturne. Will be a little bit more of that Bruiser style, but the flip side, still yet to see what Mute will go for. With the rune choice, however, we would assume it would be one of these more assassin-oriented Kha'Zix builds with the first strike in tow. But for the time being, it is 3 kills to nothing for the side of Trebuchet. Up about 1,800 gold at the time, right here at 5 minutes. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. They're feeling pretty happy with what they've been able to garner for themselves. Close Your Eyes getting a successful pre-6 gank on Nocturne can be very, very impactful across the course of the game. Normally, you just expect Nocturne to power farm up to level 6, sort of the bona fide level 6 ganker champion, because you've got your ultimate, the Paranoia, to drop down. You have that threat all across the map with that gank effectively, because you don't know where this Nocturne's going, but actually going to be walking right into Mute here on this bottom side of the map. The Spell Shield not going to be doing too much. Mute going to be able to dash forward here. There's the shield coming through from Shen, so it's going to be a little bit of a party on the bottom side. Cable going to be forced to flash out. Pafu, though, missing the Shadow Dash, not going to land that taunt at least. So Close Your Eyes will be able to escape with the flash. Op Ivy, though, now getting sequestered in. 5 members of the side of Predictive Gaming there going to be trying to close in onto Op Ivy as Vex tries to get out of there, is stunned up, but Mute has the damage and the first strike available. Isolated target's going to be feasting for the side of Kha'Zix, so it's a kill going back over to the side of Predictive Gaming Nemesis. And since I am alone, any sort of Twitch chat analysis is actually super welcome today. I will be reading through Twitch chat because I need someone else to keep me company here. Regardless, Dragon going to be going over to Predictive Gaming here, but now the fight's starting to get extended out a little bit longer than Predictive Gaming Nemesis want. Last on this top side, still just bonking away as directed camera loves to take us up to that top side of the map, but seems like everyone's going to be able to escape. They get that Dragon for themselves. Granted, the gold lead is holding steady at about that 1,800 mark, despite the kill going back over to Mute. Cable trying to clear out some vision here, though. Mute going to just jump over that wall. You don't want to be the Sona in this situation. Might have been a bait to set up for Close Your Eyes here, who is level 6, but Melon going to be able to find that kill onto Cable. Now Mute running for the hills. Not a lot of damage coming through from Close Your Eyes. Going to have to try and escape. Mute, though, dodges away from the trail there from Close Your Eyes, but it won't be enough as now Melon is under duress here. Here comes Op Ivy in with the Shadow Surge there. Will find the next kill of that fight, so it's a 2-for-1. The Sona from Cable there playing a little bit of bait there. Ends up falling down, but it's still another kill going over to Close Your Eyes there as Vex finally gets on the board with her first kill of the game as well. But as it stands, once again, gold lead is starting to climb a little bit more for the side of Trebuchet. They've sort of catapulted their way up to about a 2,500 gold lead. Still looking strong in the solo lanes as well. If we look across the board, it's a blasting wand available for Smurf alongside those boots, whereas you have the recently picked up kill for Op Ivy as well as that lost chapter, so a little bit more kill threat, but Op Ivy going to be the one in trouble. Tibbers dropping down that damage. The Ignite, though, doesn't look like it's going to tick down quite enough as Tibbers isn't able to chase far enough. It's going to be Op Ivy staying alive with a sliver of health as the Ignite from Smurf is used in that exchange. Yeah, even on this bottom side of the map, we can look at the gold difference here. Already a 20 CS lead for Wet Dreams and Cable here. Jinx has been able to actually freeze up this wave for quite a long time on the bottom side of the map, really making it difficult for Cookies to move up. This is a level 4 Tristana against a level 6 Jinx. This isn't a fight that you're going to win on this bottom side of the map, and with Cable now threatening level 6 of their own, a crescendo that comes down into a full Jinx combo will be detrimental, and Predictive Gaming, they've got to try and send some sort of resources down to this bottom side of the map. You've got Smurf level 7, you've got Mute level 6. You might have to just look to shove in this wave because this freeze is starting to be extremely detrimental. Just since we've been talking about this freeze, it has broken, but it's still another 10 CS lead going over to the side of Wet Dreams on this bottom side of the map. one could say that it would be an 80 carries wet dream to have this sort of lane state and CS lead for themselves. But as we continue to watch on this across this game here, gold lead starting to climb a little bit more even from the CS gift differences here. 2 waves of advantage for Blast up on that top side of the map, but as we say that, Mute might be trying to have some sort of impact on this bottom side of the map. Kha'Zix is now level 6, going to be leaping in there. Cable holding on to that crescendo for as long as possible. Will not actually burn anything to escape that gank, because it was well spotted out from that ward in the river. The first mythic going to actually come through, though, for the side of, or in this game, and it will be for the side of Trebuchet here. Actually, a couple of mythics picked up. It's the Stridebreaker as well as the Everfrost picked up by the Nocturne and the Vex, respectively. So, looking for a little bit more utility from the side of Op Ivy as well as from Close Your Eyes. There are more aggressive options they could have gone for. Ludens on the Vex, potentially even a Duskblade for the Nocturne or any of the other mythics you can think of, but Close Your Eyes still going to go aggressive here. Shadow Surge not going to land from the Vex, but it might not be necessary here. Close Your Eyes will flash to follow the flash from Smurf there to be able to pick up that kill. And Kha'Zix looking in the mid lane, though, not quite isolated. Mute has the Shen Shield as well. Got to be careful. Will get taken down by Mute. Now it's a 1v3 in the mid lane. Op Ivy, no ultimate, no damage as well to be able to come through. Will be forced to flash away as Mute is able to strike once again. Gets a little bit of help from Pafu from that Stand United, but look at what's happening on the opposite side of the map. Blasty's been able to just farm up a Storm in the meantime, take some more plates here, and this should be a 3rd plate picked up for the Mordekaiser on this top side of the map. The gold lead is starting to climb, and if we look at the gold actually in inventory for this Mordekaiser, about 2,500. So if they wanted to, if they're able to pick up that plate, they should be able to pick up a Rift Maker for themselves if that is the option. But Op Ivy in the mid lane gets caught out once again, is just caught by the Lulu and Kha'Zix combination there, and that's really challenging there because you have the control ward there. It isn't enough. You need to make sure that you're just playing back. If you don't know where the Kha'Zix is, they can always strike, and what this does for Predictive Gaming is it opens up the second Dragon opportunity for themselves. Close Your Eyes is in the area. Will actually drop down that Rift Herald as well, but the Dragon's already gone before anything is erupting in terms of the action. But Smurf now moving forward aggressively. Mute going to jump over that wall. Cookies goes flash back across the wall alongside that Wild Growth. Burns both of those summoners as they took a little bit more damage than I think they were expecting. Now trying to escort this Rift Herald, and I don't know if it's actually going to be able to get the charge. Ooh, they're not able to get behind it for the auto attack there, and the smite isn't in time, so it's a lot of damage going down onto Mute as they almost go down, and a couple plates going back over to this Nocturne, who I believe was the only one in the area to get any of that gold. Here comes the Paranoia as Cookies walks on the traps, and that'll be another kill going over to the Nocturne. 5-1-1 thus far. Has been doing quite well for themselves as they're going to be able to pick up this first turret on this bottom side of the map. Granted, that tower's got a lot of resistances now with that last plate. They should be able to cut down with all of the members in the area. 4 members strong, going to be able to pick up that first tower for Trebuchet as, once again, they extend their lead up to about 4,500 gold now. So really everything has been going Trebuchet's way apart from a couple of misplays in some of these ganks. Blast actually going to be taking Pafu down into the Death Realm, and this Shen doesn't have the agency to get out of there, doesn't really want to flash, doesn't want to do anything else in that situation, and despite the heavy item advantage, and Blast hasn't been able to find a recall in a while, they will be able to pick up that solo kill. Mute is starting to move up the river, though. Blast has to try and push this wave in as quickly as possible, but they may be dead to rights regardless here. Mute has the leap, will be moving in, has the Prowler's Claw as well. Blast trying to flash away from that one, but the burn from the red buff will be too much as bites off a little bit more than they can chew as they were sitting on a healthy amount of gold. There's the Rift Maker that we were talking about. Likely to see some upgraded boots come through as well, but you get the solo kill. I think at that point you just leave the wave and you get out of there to save yourself. But yes, as turret platings fall, once again, we look at the gold lead. Yes, 4,000 gold right now. A lot of the gold for the side of Predictive Gaming has been put onto Mute here on this Kha'Zix, and this is something that we've seen a bunch of times. Is on the bottom side of the map, Pafu going to use that ultimate to save Cookies, almost getting one-shot by Op Ivy, as it is a flash forced out from Cable, as well as the Crescendo actually trying to clear out a ward. Mute has been able to be that sort of hard carrying the jungle before, as the Paranoia comes down into the mid lane. Smurf dealing a lot of damage in return, will actually find the shutdown onto the Nocturne, but Wet Dreams is able to retaliate with a kill of their own. A lot of damage can come through from that Annie, and Lulu extends the fight a lot longer and keeps Annie alive longer than she had any right to live, and that will end up being one of the main difference makers of that play. Could have just been a clean 1-for-0, but ends up being a 1-for-1. Mute looking for the kill, though. Op Ivy taking a bunch of damage, but the fear comes down from Mute. Will get rooted up as well. The zap comes through. The Gale Force from Wet Dreams will find that kill, as it is a third kill for the Jinx already. She is starting to come online, and this is one of the main things that has worked for Trebuchet in the past. If they're able to get Wet Dreams a lead, if they're able to get Op Ivy into a comfortable situation, whether they're playing top lane or mid lane here, they generally do succeed, as those two have been the sort of consistent forces, the old faithfuls for the side of Trebuchet thus far this season, as Pafu's just trying to do anything against these minions here, but just taking so much damage from the Jinx. Been able to stack up that lethal tempo and just throwing down those rockets. That's the power of Jinx with double buffs. You just never run out of mana. You never run out of health. You can just throw out those rockets like they're just for fun there. You don't ever run out of mana. On the bottom side of the map, though, Cookies, once again, going to be engaged on, uses that jump a little bit early, will get rooted up, and Op Ivy going to be able to find the solo kill onto Cookies once again. This Tristana hasn't been having the best of performances once again. We talked about the strength of the early game from that champion before she falls into the mid-game trough. Blast, though, will try and find the engage onto Smurf, who flashes over the wall. Close Your Eyes is there. The Wild Growth, though, once again, as Smurf is able to drop down Timbers. Not sure if there's going to be enough damage to clean anyone up. Close Your Eyes going to flash into the bush, find one kill, find two kills. That's going to be two for the Nocturne, as Pafu now trying to run for the hills. Mute has showed up on the backline, though, uses that Prowler's Claw to find a kill onto Close Your Eyes, but will end up getting shut down by 3 members of Trebuchet in the area. Ends up being a 4-for-1 in favor of Trebuchet. It's starting to get a little bit rough once again for Predictive Gaming Nemesis, as despite their comp wanting to play for this early game, and despite a couple of pretty strong looks from Mute in the early stages here, it's starting to fall apart once again. The wheels are starting to turn a little bit too much against them from the side of Trebuchet here. They're starting to fling themselves ahead with some more advantages, and 8,000 gold in the lead at 17 minutes is an unfortunately similar situation to what we've seen a lot from Predictive Gaming thus far. Trebuchet able to really take advantage of their champions and their comfort on them, and this Tristana, still waiting to build that mythic item, is just yards behind the likes of Wet Dreams here, looking toward their second item now. This Nocturne, who's sitting on 2 completed items already, and even Blast on that top side of the map has the Riftmaker, has the Mercury Treads as well, and looking for a reset here with about 2,800 gold. Should be almost enough to clean up a second item for themselves, whether they want the Demonic Embrace, whether they want the Gnasher's Tooth, most of the components of that, or whatever Blast desires. But in the mid lane, Wet Dream's actually going to take a decent chunk of damage. Mute going to be wild growthed up to make sure they stay alive, but here comes the ultimate through from Close Your Eyes. They're going to be able to find the kill onto Mute, as Lulu, or Tristana, sorry, from Cookie is going to be the next victim. The Yordle will fall victim to the actual embodiment of a nightmare there. This game has just been a little bit of a nightmare. They're able to finish up their Gale Force finally here, but is it too late? Potentially here. It's starting to look a little bit grim as the second Rift Tail of the game, looking to push down an inhibitor at this stage. That will actually be the tier 3 as well, as this will get a charge onto the inhibitor as well. That's going to be a decent chunk of damage that will not regen. Well, no, inhibitors will regen all the way up. It's the inhibitor turrets that won't, but it's just a pretty strong stranglehold on this game from the side of Trebuchet. And for the side of Predictive Gaming, they need to sort of steady out the ship a little bit. They need to play more around this Kha'Zix, but Mute, 5-5-1, I'm just sort of struggling to find any sort of 1v1 situations, as it seems like Trebuchet are all on the same page. They don't want to leave anyone alone when there's a Kha'Zix out on the map. There's a Kha'Zix looking to pick up more kills, and with the build that they've opted for, they don't quite have the perfect one-shot capability. Those cookies going to be going down into the Death Realm. Blast not going to have any trouble picking up that kill. Is a good buffer on the jump, but not able to dodge away from the Death Realm there. As we expected, the second item, Demonic Embrace, now available for Blast, and it's a struggle on multiple fronts. No side lane is safe for this just onto the farm. But yes, as we continue to watch this matchup here, 20.5 minutes into this game, it's still just a struggle to sort of find the bright points for Predictive Gaming Nemesis. This might be one, though, if they're able to find the fight. Mute is forced to leap out of there as the paranoia comes down, but there was a little bit of hope there. You could see it in their eyes. You know, you saw 4v2 there, but Blast able to walk up, Wet Dreams able to rotate up as well. As it's always strong rotations coming through from Trebuchet. They've got the right members in the right place at the right time to always find the counter engage or the enough members to sort of dissuade any sort of plays coming through from Predictive Gaming Nemesis. So we have to question at this point what PGN need to do to, in draft maybe, just to sort of stabilize the ship. They've tried this Tristana Lulu lane a couple of times, and it hasn't always worked out. The Jinx is just such a strong pick, and we would assume that on red side, you would want to ban out the Jinx if you aren't planning on picking it. Granted, there is other picks that you have to ban out, specifically the Vladimir as well. But up top side here, Op Ivy in a little bit of trouble. Mute will get that ultimate and will be able to find the kill as Cookies burning down Super Mega Death Rocket will not find its mark, but now Pafu is in the area, but will get feared up. Lots of members are around, and it's going to be another kill going over to Close Your Eyes. They sacrifice themselves to keep Cookies alive here, but Cookies barely staying alive at that. It's going to be an inhibitor given up by the side of Predictive Gaming Nemesis as Gold Lead continues to hang around that 10,000 gold margin. You find a kill on that top side of the map onto Op Ivy, but you're losing out on your Shen, you're losing out on an inhibitor, you're losing out on another turret, as well as potentially this dragon. And despite the early dragon stacking going the way of Predictive Gaming, it's really the only thing that's stopped Trebuchet from having a look at this Baron at this stage. Or at Soul, sorry, at this stage of the game. But Baron, another possibility that could come through is you've got this Jinx, you've got this Nocturne who is really strong, you've got Blast to just be able to tank up anything. They're sort of just going to go on a macro spree at this point, taking as many objectives as they can. And it gets to the point where the comp from Trebuchet are starting to just scale up. They're starting to catch up here. The Nocturne being at 2.5 items here, the Vex being at 2 items, the Jinx being at 2 items. This is sort of your comfort zone, and you want to see, oh my goodness, great pullback from Blast actually as Cookies trying to escape in the Death Realm here, using everything they can to try and stay alive, but Blast is just able to use that Darkness Rising passive there, stand on top of them, and prevent anything from going down. As yes, this should be the call for Baron. As we were saying, the comp from Trebuchet are just able to scale up to where they want to be. Although Mute going to look for the play onto Op Ivy, will go gold, and it's a kill onto the Nocturne actually, so no jungler available for this Baron now as it's a flash force from Op Ivy as they're going to get out of there. Mute, though, taking a decent chunk of damage. We'll see if they're able to find the re-engage here onto Predictive Gaming Nemesis, but Tibbers will just be the only casualty of the re-engage. Ooh, Wet Dreams moving forward aggressively. Super Mega Death Rocket will come down, will not find the mark, or not enough damage onto Mute as they're running for the hills. The evolved Spike Racks are going to prevent anything from falling down as Op Ivy looking for that Shadow Surge, doesn't have it up off of cooldown quite yet. It's a pretty big shutdown actually going over to Smurf on this Annie as this entire time Pafu on this bottom side of the map just able to take down this tower as much as possible as Cable now just clearing out some vision. Despite that fight going really well in favor of Predictive Gaming Nemesis, the gold lead hasn't really closed up too much. It's always been around this 9 to 11,000 mark, anywhere in between there. It's challenging to find an angle back into this game. Overall, though, it's Close Your Eyes going to look for a play onto the likes of this Annie. It might actually have bitten off more than they can chew. Mute and Melon are in the area, and once again, they find the kill onto the over-aggressive play from Close Your Eyes, but this time it might actually be Mute in a little bit of trouble. Granted, the crowd control layering was not ideal. Pafu is here, not able to find the taunt flash. They're a little bit late on the flash, but Cable trying to stay alive with that Moonstone there. All the ability haste actually might be enough to turn it around. Super Mega Death Rocket comes down onto Pafu as they go down. Blasta taking Mute down into the Death Realm, and they fall as well. Smurf is the next victim of Wet Dreams here on this Jinx, as Jinx able to find 2 kills, and despite the Nocturne going down, they find 3 kills back onto the side of Predictive Gaming Nemesis, and this should be the Baron secured for them. Melon forced to back off, not a whole lot of health to work with, and Cookies, the Tristana, stuck in base, farming up minions, not having the greatest time this game. It's going to be a Baron secured by the side of Trebuchet onto all 5 members. Now holding on to an 11,500 gold lead. Maybe this is the gold lead that makes them secure enough to end the game. They just need to push as 5 in a lot of ways. Go down that mid lane or follow one of their side wave lanes here and clean up the rest of the game. They've had a pretty strong chokehold of this game since about 10 minutes into this one. It's just about closing this one out. And realistically, if I'm any of the other teams in this league, if I am Team Ishtar, who are looking to face Predictive Gaming in the future, you want to see how long they're able to extend out this game, because that can be something that worries you. Or if you're one of Trebuchet's opponents in the future, you want to see how well they can clear out this game once they get the Baron, once they get to stack up these objectives, once they have this gold lead, because right now they're doing a pretty good job of clearing it out, but they've had this gold lead for a lot longer than what it looks like. They just haven't really gone for the kill in that sense. Wet Dreams, though, going to try and get away. Tibbers is dropped right on top of the Jinx. Jinx forced to move out of there with that Gale Force. Has a lot of shields, though, and heals from the Sona. Doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Cookies using that Buster Shot to knock someone away to try and stay alive. Now forced to flash away. Wet Dreams is excited. The Zap will end up landing as another kill going into the Jinx's pocket. 6-0 and 7 for Wet Dreams here. And it looks like this game is about wrapped up here for game 1. Going to be the first Nexus Tower falling. Second Nexus Tower soon to follow here. Predictive Gaming Nemesis, despite a decent early game showing, still falling down to their own demise in a lot of ways. Trebuchet able to just play an extremely clean game, able to play around this Nocturne, get him fed early on, and then transfer that over to the Jinx, and that's going to be game 1 victory going over to Trebuchet. And in a lot of ways, it was sort of not in doubt after we saw the first 10 minutes of this game. Jinx was able to get a decent lead in lane, didn't die that entire game. Cookies had a little bit of a rough time getting off the ground on this Tristana, and despite Mute having a valiant effort on the Kha'Zix once again, it just wasn't enough to push them across the line. So curious to see how they will fare come game 2, but overall we will see if anything changes or if Predictive Gaming will end up falling 2-0 once again here in week 5. But we'll see what sort of tricks they have up their sleeve for game 2 draft. We're going to head to a short break while we reset everything up, and then we will be back on to the Rift. But you're watching BTL, RareAdam solo cast today. We'll be right back.